Hello everyone and welcome to Capitol Watch for Friday, February 17th, our weekly look at legislative issues and how they impact public education throughout the state of Missouri. And joining us as always is Mike Reed, MSBA's Associate Executive Director for Advocacy. And Mike joins us from our governmental relations offices in Jefferson City. And Mike, another busy week in Jefferson City. Lots of hearings going on these days, aren't there?
Lots of hearings. Every day there are hearings morning and afternoon, and then discussion during session. Session right now is still mostly in the morning, but very, very busy times for us here in Jefferson City.
One of the issues this week, Mike, was considered in the Senate General Laws Committee. Senator Cunningham's bill, Senate Bill 451, that originally started out as a rather simple bill involving the ability of school districts to share administrative services, but now that bill contains all kinds of provisions, doesn't it?
It contains all kinds of provisions, and in fact, the original provisions, the sharing of services, we could go along with because it actually allows us to do what we're still doing now. However, numerous things were put on this bill, including it's called the Passport Scholarship. We consider it a voucher bill. It's a tuition tax credit. It's taking away money from state revenue by giving a tax credit and allowing students to go to private religious schools. It's a voucher program. There are other things in that bill, however, changing the foundation formula, what some people call a foundation formula fix, questions about the Kansas City School District, numerous other provisions in that bill. However, the provision that we have a lot of concern about is the Passport Scholarships tuition tax credits.
And Mike, that bill was approved by the committee, is that right?
That was approved by committee. There was only one vote against the committee, and it will go out now and eventually be placed on the Senate calendar for discussion. We're going to talk to our members soon, as soon as it comes out for discussion, to talk to your state senator about this piece of legislation. There will be more on that in the next few weeks.
And Mike, now there's sounds like a similar bill on the House side. State Representative Dickhouse has a version of that bill, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. He just filed that bill on Thursday. State Representative Dickhouse has a Passport Scholarship tuition tax credit bill, a voucher bill. I anticipate that bill will be heard on Wednesday in his committee, and I also anticipate that there will be numerous additions to that piece of legislation. I think both of them will be going through their respective houses at the same time. It's going to be extremely important for our members to be in contact with their representatives and senators and tell them that this is not the best way for all the students in the state of Missouri. This is not good for public education in this state.
And Mike, again, these two bills really bundle a lot of issues together, don't they? And that's not something that we would want to see necessarily.
That's exactly right. They bundle issues that are very important to education, that we support and we think need to be discussed on their own. All of these things need to be discussed and voted on individually and not as a bundle. Bundling it puts people in boxes and saying, you know, well, if you want this, you have to take something else. I think that we should be able to discuss the merits of all of these various situations and problems and have them get an up or down vote on the merits of it and not be coerced into supporting one thing to get something else.
Another issue that was discussed this week, Mike, related to vouchers, a proposed constitutional amendment that would do away with the longstanding prohibition in our state constitution against providing taxpayer money to private religious schools. Again, that was heard in the Senate General Laws Committee, and that constitutional amendment is being sponsored by State Representative Scott Roop of Wentzville. And let's take a look now at some comments Senator Roop made about that proposal.
To put it very simply, I would put before the voters a constitutional amendment to remove a section of the Blaine Amendment that deals with the distribution of public monies to religious organizations and replace it with would prohibit public entities from denying an individual or an entity any state benefits of an educational program, funding, or other support basis of religion, identity, or belief, provided that the state benefits still comply with the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Because again, as long as we're still complying with our federal Constitution, then how can that be wrong?
Mike Reed, how can that be wrong?
Well, presently, we're not fully funding public education. And so now we're going to be funding religious education. How can it be wrong? There are a lot of interesting things. It's an interesting thing that we can discuss, but this has been in our Constitution since the turn of the century, and we're not fully funding public education. And this doesn't say we're only going to fund one type of schools. There are numerous questions on what about a white supremacist school that wants to come in and fall under certain religious. You cannot stop that. It's a Pandora's box that I don't think people are thinking through. Again, we want what's best for our children. We have public education in Missouri, and that's the first thing we are supposed to fund, and we're not fully funding it now. So then we're going to diminish that.
And Mike, this is a proposed constitutional amendment, so even if it does go through the General Assembly, it would go to a public vote, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. It would go to a public vote this fall, and the public could decide on what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. Another issue this week, Mike, a bill that would eliminate some election dates. Tell us about that.
Yes, there's a bill that Senator Kraus has that would eliminate the February and the June election dates. We testified against that bill specifically because we use the February election date often for bond and levy elections. It's very important to school districts. If we have a bond issue for new construction and it's passed in February, we can then get those bonds sold and get construction started early in the construction season. Reducing the number of election dates to only April, August, and November could hurt school districts, and we believe we really need to keep at least the February election date.
Mike, we have an event coming up on Tuesday of next week, our annual Legislative Forum in Jefferson City, and that's always a great opportunity for our board members and superintendents to visit Jefferson City and meet with their legislators, isn't it?
It is. We're going to have a good program. We're going to talk a lot about grassroots lobbying and working with your representatives and senators to explain how their actions affect the students in your district. We're going to have some panel discussions on what's going on and where are certain pieces of legislation. And there'll be time first to have lunch with your elected officials and also to go over to the Capitol building and have a discussion. Afterwards, coming back here to our offices, and we're having a ribbon cutting ceremony for the new center that is our members center. It's a really neat place for members to come and use here in Jefferson City to meet with their representatives and senators away from the Capitol building. It is their center, and we want people to use it.
All right, Mike Reed, thanks a lot for being with us on this edition of Capitol Watch. And as Mike mentioned, we hope to see you at Legislative Forum this coming Tuesday in Jefferson City. And as always, we'll be keeping you up to date on legislative issues through our weekly Legislative Voice electronic newsletter every Friday and the daily Capitol update on our website, the daily blog, for those daily developments. Thanks again for being with us, and we hope you join us again next week for another edition of Capitol Watch.